In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear believers. I am Dr. Aisha El-Amin, and I am happy to welcome you to today's Talim. On behalf of the resident Imam, Imam Tariq El-Amin, and the Talim Committee, which is chaired by myself, with my wonderful comrades, Dr. Lionel Allen, Dr. Gloria Bashir, and Sister Rashida Fitzpatrick. If you do not already know, I am here to remind you that this Talim, as well as previous Talims and Khutbahs from Masjid Al-Taqwa Chicago, are online. You can find them on YouTube, Masjid Al-Taqwa Chicago. If you have not already subscribed, please do so. If you have found benefit in them, please share a link with a friend. So today's Talim is recorded, and if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or to raise your virtual hand. I will be monitoring the chat throughout. Our guest really does not need an intro. Our founding Imam, Dr. Imam Mikal Ramadan is our presenter today, and the topic is surviving and recovering from a disaster. It's a firsthand report with lessons learned. And if you all know our beloved Dr. Imam Ramadan, you know that he has lots of wisdom, and we are benefited from him sharing it with us. And so without further ado, I will pass the mic over to you, Dr. Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, and thank you for that warm introduction. Alhamdulillah. We feel very fortunate today for our presentation. It's a bit unusual, but it hopefully will bring out some important things that messages that we can carry with us should we ever encounter a disaster. And we know that these disasters seem to be more frequent, one or another, either heat waves, hurricanes, forest fires, earthquakes, or, these things are happening, and we can't go a week or a few days without hearing one thing or another happening. And we always say to ourselves, these things seem to happen to someone else. And but we never know how we might respond or react if we find ourselves in them. So this is sort of an introduction to our presentation today. We are fortunate, alhamdulillah, to have a brother that we are is also dear to us. He's a member of the Muslim Health Consortium. And the Muslim Health Consortium is a group that's in our community of health professionals, educators, health educators, scientists, and retired practitioners, such as myself. And we discuss the current events from a health perspective. We give our reports on them. We give webinars. We are currently writing a book, and it's health education, and we hope to see ourselves or held in the as a trusted source when there's so much false information out there. So, Brother Ron Foster Sharif is one that is a member, and we call him Ron the Scientist. He's known by to us and others as that. And just to give you a background on Ron, he has been working in research and development for the Eli Lilly Company for over 30 years. And he worked on projects, working on therapeutics for various diseases with Eli Lilly. And he also worked in the area of clinical pharmacy. compounding drugs, including chemotherapy and other medications. And he also worked in photojournalism. He did work for Muslim Journal and for international documentaries. And with all of that, he sometimes finds time to be teach school as a substitute teacher. So he has a great deal of experience. And what he is bringing to us today is he experienced a disaster firsthand. He had prepared for it and experienced it and wanted to share that with us. So without delaying any further, we'd like to turn it over to you, Brother Ron.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you to your group for inviting me to speak. Thank you for this honor. I guess where I'll start is at the beginning. I'm down here in Houston, Texas, and what had happened was that one day I was looking at the TV following this tropical depression that was forming off in the Atlantic, leaving Africa as these type of storms normally do. And as the storm passed through the Caribbean, it appeared as though the storm was going to hit somewhere around Corpus Christi, or even further west. It was going to be mainly western Texas and Mexico. But lo and behold, it seems as though all of a sudden the storm made a right turn at a sharp right angle. They say they hardly ever seen a storm do that. And it came right across Houston, just like a fastball down the middle of the plate. And all of a sudden, we were in the middle of a hurricane. Now, it stirred around a little bit. I think it hit the coast of Texas, right outside Houston and in the Galveston area. It came in as a Cat 1 storm, and it came in with some fury to it. And then all of a sudden, all the lights were gone. All the power were gone. Phones wasn't working. It was just stillness and darkness. So I got concerned about myself and my family. I hadn't heard from my grandchildren. They live about 6 minutes away from me. And I knew my son was stuck somewhere in Louisiana and couldn't get a flight in. So that I knew that his wife and his mother-in-law and 2 little rascals were with him. And I knew I couldn't get them on the phone. It sort of reminded me of that old blues song about it's flooding. Remember the Texas flood? About it's flooding down in Texas. And I can't get a single sound. Instead, I tried to get my baby on the line. It just couldn't get a single sound in. So I got up and I drove around there. And when I went to entered the house, I could feel a lot of fear. The youngest grandson, he immediately ran to me and just was kind of shaking a little bit and hugging me. And he was really, really scared. And that was unusual. And then I looked at the 13-year-old. He was shaking. And that was kind of unusual to see these two kind of rattled. They had just got back from Cape Town, South Africa. They went with their father. And they had interacted quite a bit with the children over there. And to see these children rattled like this, well, I knew I had to take some kind of appropriate action. So everybody came to my house. And once I got there, it went out, and I had to start the generator. I broke the generator out. Now, this is a generator that I've had for years, and I drug it all the way from Indiana to Texas because I knew in my heart of hearts that at some point I was going to need this generator. Now, I got worried at first because the generator appeared to have problems. Seems like when I was trying to start it, it was leaking gas quite a bit. And I turned the gas line off, and that's when I got a little worried because I'm like, well, I done drug this generator all the way here to Texas, and it's not going to work. So I kept messing with it, and finally I figured out that I just needed to get rid of some of the little corrosion around the battery terminals, just like you do on a car or a truck. And I did that. I cleaned that up and started right up, and it didn't have a leak. So I got the generator running. And with these generators under emergency situations, the first thing, in my opinion, that you need to do once you get them started is you have to designate a line, or in my case, it was 2 lines, immediately to the food supply. So I ran one line to the freezer in the garage and another line to the refrigerator. First got that established. Then I brought in some other lines and brought them into the house and separated them out so that various other things could be powered. I had already had a portable air conditioner in play because I had had some problems about 2 weeks earlier with the air conditioner, and the air conditioner went out completely, and it took them about a week to figure out what the problem was. So I went and purchased a portable air conditioner, not the one that goes in the window. This is the stand-up one, and the exhaust goes to the window. Well, that served as really a valuable addition. So I immediately took that portable air conditioner and put it in one bedroom, and that's where
What was the temperature there?
I think the temperature was running right around 100. It was higher than that when you consider the heat index. I'm sure with the heat index, it might have been around 105 or 108. So I asked all the females to go to this particular bedroom, and that's where I set up the portable air conditioner because I only had one, and I wanted to make sure that they were comfortable. I was fortunate that my wife wasn't here. My wife was in Indianapolis. She likes to go back during the summer for a month or something to deal with the other children and the grandchildren and to take care of some rental properties. So she was there, and she had been gone for about 2 or 3 weeks. So all of this fell on me. So I looked up, and as they came into my house, I was surprised, and I really shouldn't have been, but when they came in with their agenda. They came in with their dog, who I call Miss Brooklyn. She's a very, very nice, pretty dog, and I like animals, but I'm not comfortable with animals in my house. But in this situation, there was no way I was going to put that dog out there in the heat or in a hurricane. For one thing, I knew the little rascals would protest. So they came with the dog, so I had to accommodate that. So once we got situated and settled and the generator started running, the generator started burning at a rate of about 5 gallons of gas every 4.5 hours. So I hadn't planned necessarily to have more gas than maybe what was in 5 gallons in the generator and 5 gallons in reserve. And it burned through that quick. So I found myself in a situation where I had to go out into the city. I had to go run the streets again, like I used to, and got away from doing. Well, now I had to run the streets again. And this time I had to run the streets in search of not only gasoline, but I had to run the streets in search of supplies. There were a number of other things that I figured out that I needed that I had to go out in the streets to get. Now, when I went out into the street, there was absolute chaos, pandemonium. It was a madhouse. It was a madhouse at the gas stations. It was a madhouse at the big boxes that were, some of them were open, some of them weren't open. Some of them had their own generators, but they were only allowing into the store 5 or 7 people at a time. And the line to get in these big boxes, and this even includes Kroger, the line was just all the way down and around the store and down the street. But I was fortunate that I had plenty of food. I had stocked up on the food prior to this. So I had plenty of food, so I didn't have to go there. But I did have to go get some other supplies. And that brought me to Lowe's. And I had to go to Lowe's. And when I got to Lowe's, again, pandemonium everywhere, just everywhere. People hollering, people screaming, people fighting. Then we were in Lowe's, who had their own generator system, but we were way in the back of the store getting supplies because I knew I needed a strong metal chain because you have to use a metal chain on your generators in order to tie them down, or people will, riding up and down the street, jump out of trucks, disconnect all your wires and take the generator. So you have to chain your generator down. So we were in the back of the store, and then all of a sudden the whole store went dark, pitch black. I couldn't believe it. And so I had the little rascals with me, and the way that I kind of calmed them down is that I told them that this was manhood training. So that immediately had their shoulders jump up proud because they was gonna meet that, and that calmed them down quite a bit. And so in the middle of this darkness, in the middle of Lowe's, or in the back of Lowe's, we had to use our telephones, the flashlights on our telephones, in order to find our way back to the front. Now, it was during this time that in all this chaos over these few days, I think it was during this time that I like to describe my catching COVID, because I did catch COVID. And I think one of the things that aggravated that was that the COVID that I caught, I like to think it was adrenaline-driven COVID, which I think is a little bit different as far as to its veracity, because people were in a state of absolute panic. You go to service stations, and it was long lines there, and most of the service stations weren't open. Very few of them was open. In fact, one of my neighbors told me, don't even bother to go to service stations in my area, to go all the way to a city called Conroe, Texas. in order to look for something up there. And what I found out is in those situations, when you are forced to look for gas, it's best to look for service stations that are close to hospitals. Because if they are, then chances are they're on the same power grid with the hospital, and you stand a bigger chance of finding one that's open. So I did, and but before I got to that point, I made a stop at another service station and went to get the gas. And I was told after waiting in this long line, I was told that they were only accepting cash only. And I felt kind of, I guess, kind of foolish for myself because I'm thinking, well, of course they're gonna only do, most of them gonna only do cash only. The machines, and the cash registers, and even the pumping of the gas, that all runs on electricity. So if there's no electricity, then there's no way that they can collect money or pump the gas. So a lot of service stations were in that situation, and that kind of surprised me. So in these kind of situations, I think we got to be mindful that when we are going out into the street to get supplies under these conditions, you have to have cash. And I think one of the items in our survival kits has to include, I would recommend at least $500 in safe, waterproof safe, fireproof safe, along with our passports and invaluable papers in the event we have to evacuate. But I recommend anywhere from $500 to $1,000 just in cash. And that's assuming that the situation is only going to last for 3 or 4 days. In this case, the lights were out 6 days, 6 days with no lights and no very, very spotty on and off cell. You couldn't even rely on it. So that situation produced a situation, like I said, where I did get COVID. And then there was what happened one morning. I was trying to get some sleep because it was constant demands because it was not only me, but I also was responsible for a house full of people. So I think something happened, and I woke up about 4 o'clock in the morning and realized that the generator was out of gas. And I realized that I had burned up all the gas that I had reserved. So I had to go back out into the street searching for gas. And it's during that time that as I was driving, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm still have sleep. I'm very, very tired. Seems like my body is really, really hurting everywhere from lifting all this stuff and whatnot. And as I was driving, I got stopped by the police. So when I saw him, when he was behind me, the lights go out and everything. So I did what I was supposed to do. I turned on the light in the car and rolled all the windows down and put my hands where they're supposed to be on their steering wheel. I was told when you take that kind of action dealing with the police, that sends a message to them that not only you're not a threat, but it also sends a message to them that you know somebody, because that's like a universal signal to them of letting them know that I'm not a threat to you. I'm here to do what you asked me to do, and I'm not gonna be any kind of obstacle to you getting back home safely to your family. So he came up, he was very polite, and asked me, did I know I ran a light? I said, well, okay, no, I didn't know. The lights are out. I didn't see a light. I didn't realize that that was an actual situation where it was a light. And he explained that in these type of disasters, you have to treat all these type of intersections that have a light, but the lights are out. You have to treat them as a four-way stop. And I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I apologized about that. So he asked to see my insurance card, and that threw me because I'm thinking you want to see my well, he asked license too, but he said also I was looking for you. Also asked for my registration. That's in the glove compartment. So he said, no, I just want to see your license and your insurance card. I said, well, okay, it's in my back pocket. I'm gonna have to reach back there and get it. I want you to let me know when you want me to reach back there and get it. And he said, no problem. So I gave him all that information. He looked it over and went back and called it in and came back and gave it all back to me and explained to me the situation and how to act. So I went on my way. So then that situation was pushed to the side. And then I had to go back dealing with this generator. And I think it's important for all of us to make sure that we have generators. This is a hurricane season, but you very well may get the same kind of power outage situation arising from a snowstorm or a blizzard or a tornado or whatever, or just from civil unrest. So I think it's very, very important that we look in being forward thinking that we acquire a generator, and I would recommend a generator somewhere at least 10,000 watts, starting watts, at least 10,000. And you may have, I think, 9,000 running watts. I know these are numbers I'm just throwing out, but as you do your research, they'll start to make sense. But you need to have a generator. And the one that I had was gas powered. Now, I wouldn't recommend getting the gas powered, even though the gas powered that I have performed wonderfully. What they have now, this new technology, is that they have the tri-fuel generators. Okay, now I'm talking about the portable generators. Now, I'm not talking about the standby generators. I'm talking which are just standalones like Generacs that's attached to your house. I'm talking about the portables. I prefer the portables in case I have to move or evacuate, and I can take this generator with me. But they have these new technologies called tri-fuel, and it will run not only on gasoline, but it will also run on natural gas that you have in your house, and it will also run on propane. Of course, if you choose to go with natural gas, then you have to call out a plumber, and he has to connect the line from the natural gas coming into your house to an outlet where it can connect to your generator. And if you want to have the generator with sufficient enough power to run your whole entire house, and you need to connect it to the circuit breaker of your house, then you have to have an electrician come out and set all that up with what they call a quick access box that allows the generator to plug right into the standing electrical grid for your home, so that you can run your whole house, including the air conditioning system, including the furnace and everything. So that's an addition that I am making now. I'm going to want to the newer generators, but I think it's important that we look forward and take these kind of actions in order to protect ourselves and our family. So
Ron, on the generators, Ron,
yes, sir.
on on the generators, you know, you said the newer ones are the basically the tri-fuel. The ones that are mostly out there now are the propane, which is canisters, and the gasoline. And from what you were saying, the gasoline generators use a good amount of gas. You were
Yes.
calculating on about a gallon an hour. You know,
Yes.
you
Yes.
5.5 hours, 5 gallons. So you'll run out of gasoline pretty quick. You know, you got to have a lot of gas stored, or the difficulty, as you described, running to gas stations, which are on the grid or may be down themselves. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration. And one thing too is how far the generator has to be away from your home, because they do produce a lot of carbon monoxide, which you'd be thinking you're safe, and you can lose half the family because it was too close to the window that you had to run the cords through. So while you're on generators, I just wanted to bring those points up. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
What you some of the newer technology has what they call CO shields incorporated into the generator, so that if it detects a certain level of carbon monoxide in the area, then it will shut down. But if you're using one of the older ones, you do have to put it away from your home, and you have to turn the generator so that the exhaust coming off the generator is going toward the street. And you have to close both garage doors to the outside, and then the garage doors coming from the garage into the inside of the house, you have to make sure that door is closed. And this is to seal off to avoid any kind of leakage of carbon monoxide coming back into your home. So you do have to take those precautions, and you do have to have a tent for your generator, because you really can't be out in the rain trying to operate the generators, because you can get shocked pretty good, because you're dealing with an electric current. So you need this tent that fits over the generator itself. You have to have one of those, and that's that kind of situation. And then, like I said, you need the thick metal chain in order to chain the generator down. You do have to when the generator runs out, you do need to wait 30 minutes to an hour before you put gas back in it and start it up again. You really need to make sure that the generator cools down a little bit in order to start it up again. And you also have to keep an eye on how much oil the generator is consuming. So those are things that you do have to pay close attention to in order to get the best outcome from your generator use.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But again,
Can you
I recommend everybody get a generator. Yes.
Yes.
I was at one
Absolutely.
service station, and I saw one guy. He was sitting on his car in the heat, and I asked him. He said, "I don't have nowhere to go." He said, "I done ran out of gas, and the gas station ain't pumping no gas." So I don't know what happened to him, but he was just sitting on top of his car in the heat. Couldn't go forward, couldn't go backwards. So in that kind of situation, I think the lesson that I got from that is that we should always have at least a half a tank of gas in our cars at all times, and avoid that running the car all the way down on E. Well, that tears up your engine anyway when you operate it like that. But always try to have a half a tank of gas. And I do have an emergency kit in the car. I was told that you need that anyway when you get to Texas. So and some other things in your kit. I'm not going into that part of it, but you do need to have some food and some water in your car at all times. And one of the things that happened when I went to my emergency kit, I hadn't checked on it in a while. Well, a lot of the protein bars and all that kind of stuff, I had to throw them away because they were too old. So you have to pay attention to that. Oh, and this is another important fact dealing with your generator. For those of you that might have pet cars, men like pet cars especially when they get older. And those are cars that we only drive at certain times of the year. And we don't like to drive them in the winter. So you put them up in the winter. Well, there's a device that you put on the car. It's called a slow charge. A slow charge. This is what you connect to the battery and put it on 12 volts. And the car is allowed to sit through the winter or sit for months. And with the slow charge, then it keeps the battery viable and healthy. Well, in this case, I took the slow charge and put it on the generator. So when the emergency situation happened, the battery was right there, ready to go. So in addition to the generator, when you store the generator, you should have a slow charge device connected to your battery, because the last thing you want is to try to be firing it up and the battery is shot.
Mhm. Ron,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned the food. Can you tell us what having the additional family did to your food stocks? I'm sure you had food stock before, and you hadn't planned on additional mouths to feed. How did that go with everybody expecting maybe 3 meals a day and feeding the dog and all of that? What did that do to your food stocks?
Well, that put a hit on them quite a bit, not necessarily from the adults. That put a hit on them mainly from the little rascals, because they used to eating, and the one is 13 years old, and I don't have to tell you how teenagers eat. And I didn't put any kind of restriction on the food as far as what they wanted to eat, what was in the house, anything that was there. As typical of a grandparent like me, anything in this house that you want, you can have. And they sort of operated like that, but they sort of knew that they need to put some kind of restriction on themselves about eating, and they couldn't eat like they normally do. And that was okay. And then I had to get accustomed to the cooking. The people that were cooking, mainly my wife's, my son's wife and his mother-in-law were doing the cooking. And well, I don't know, people tend to cook and use a lot more salt than what I'm used to. So, of course, I wasn't gonna make no big thing about that. I let that pass, and I just ate just as much as I could sort of take with this high salt situation, without being rude or whatnot. But then you had all the other things that go on, the washing the drying, the dishwasher, and I looked at the dog, and I really love that dog. I call her Miss Brooklyn, and she's just a wonderful animal. And I guess my daughter-in-law, I guess they just must have read Miss Brooklyn, the riot act or something, because she was very well behaved. She didn't do her business anywhere in the house. Even in the middle of the night, she would wake up somebody to let her out. So as far as uh, that situation was concerned with the animal, that wasn't an issue. And as Muslims, we are obligated to show kindness to animals anyway. So
Right.
that situation turned out very well. And she's the type, they have food for her, and I noticed that she didn't even touch her food. I guess she's so used to eating food that human beings eat. She wouldn't eat the dog food. All she did was walk around to people, and well, we all fed her, and she's kind of used to that. So that turned
Okay.
out all right.
The point that I wanted to make on the food too, that is when not knowing how long a disaster is going to be. When you enter into going into a disaster, you have no idea how long it's going to be, and when help is going to come, and when the infrastructure is back in place. As it's probably a good idea, or something that we consider, is placing early restrictions on food.
Yeah.
Okay, so that your food stores can last. That's necessary, and informing people up front that we through this time are going to be eating less. Muslims, we used to fasting, and others are not, but early food restrictions is necessary for disaster preparation. And also, the situation of the chaos that occurs out there actually gets worse over time. People's food stocks run out, gasoline stocks run out. Uh, uh, you know, the situation gets more dire as time goes on, so they get more desperate. So we have to be aware and figure this into our planning beforehand. So even though things, when stocks are full and you just have prepared for a certain situation, consider that it may go longer than you anticipate. It may be longer to get the grid back up before help gets there, before the disaster declarations can be made. It may take longer. So prepare for the long haul, and that would be better. And this was, you also had a situation where you caught COVID during that. So
Yeah.
that was another, that more pressure on you. And alhamdulillah, you were able to pull through. It wasn't that bad. So uh, I very much appreciate the instructions regarding the police stop. That was something unexpected, and about the lights being out and you're still expected to stop even though the lights is not blinking. That was very informative, and how you managed the non-threatening police stop. That was instructive for us all. So. Uh, how is recovery going in your city? How are you bouncing back, or is it still taking a long time?
Well, it's taking quite a bit longer than it had the first time I caught COVID about 2 years ago. I'm not sure what that's about, but it's not so much the COVID symptoms itself, it's sort of the lingering effects. Occasionally, I still will have the coughing spells. There's still a little weakness out in the limbs, and was a little bit of brain fog taking place, but I sort of pushed through that. And one of the things that I did to help with the brain fog was to start doing a lot of crossword puzzles, especially the ones online, and increasing them in complexity and whatnot, and sort of forcing my brain to start acting better and doing better. We still have a lot of sporadic outages that take place here in Texas, and this happens on a regular basis. But we're pushing through it, and those outages normally don't go any longer than 3 to 4 hours. So all in all, I think it was a very good experience. And in the event that I find myself in that situation again, I will try to remember to mask up. I'm a big proponent of masking anyway, and I like to double mask, but for some reason, I didn't realize, I guess because I was kind of lulled into a false sense of security as far as the whole COVID status situation for the whole area. But now I realize that if the situation presents itself again, I'm going back to the mask, my personal mask mandate.
Have you begun to restock and prepare for the next possible situation?
Yes. I've done that as far as the gas, the gasoline. I've increased my stocking of the gasoline because I'm still on this gasoline powered generator. So I am storing gas, and I'm putting the gas not in the plastic containers. I'm actually storing my gas in military containers. I think the military has some type of vapor lock technology or something on them that allows the gas to be stored easier. And you also, as we talked about earlier, Dr. Ramadan, you have to add this stabilizer to your to gas in order for it to be able to be still viable and as potent later on, months later, so that it will burn in a good manner. And once you use these generators, then you have to do maintenance on them. Once you have an extensive use of the generator, you have to change the filters, probably change the spark plugs and check the oil levels. And you have to do that in order to maintain maintenance, do proper maintenance on the generators. So, and I have restocked with food, and I've gotten back to the protein bars that I have. I've replaced them. I pulled out one package, where it's the beef jerky, and on one side is the beef jerky, and then on the other side of the package is the cheese, right? You seen those. I pulled out one, and man, the cheese was as dark as the beef jerky. That's how long it had been since I checked on it. So naturally, I threw those out, and I made a commitment to have certain things and I've upgraded the first aid kit that I have in my house. I got a more extensive first aid kit, one that comes with I think it was 350 or 360 pieces with it. I've upgraded that. So I have taken steps to improve based on the data that I have that was generated from the last emergency, so that when the next emergency hit, I will be in an even better position to deal with it. So.
Wonderful. And I just would add that, yours was in under hot climate. These things can just as well occur in cold climate, or as you mentioned, for any reason that the grid should go down. It almost would then fall to a final common pathway. The issues become the same, off grid existence, and that alone is a real stress, especially when you're not prepared. And
Well, that actually happened here in the Houston area. I guess that happened about 2 years ago, where it was in the middle of so-called winter, and it was one of those situations where a freeze came in, and the freeze lasted for about 4 days and knocked out all the power. In that situation, I was able to see that coming. So instead of trying to wrestle through that before things even got to that point, I got a room at the Marriott for myself and my wife, and I got a room at the Marriott for my son and his family. So we kind of rolled that out at the Marriott, and this Marriott again is close to the hospital, so it was on the same grid. And I was able to get those 2 rooms long before the rush on the rooms came. I'm from the Midwest, so I know what the hawk looked like when it comes. And I saw that what was coming was some Chicago winter kind of stuff. And I made preparations to get out of Dodge at that point early. So, but I've been through it in the cold.
Right, absolutely. At this time, we, Sister Dr. Aisha, we can take questions if there are questions that can direct to Brother Ryan and myself.
Yes, please. If there are, let me just start by saying thank you. What an informative story. And I was writing notes myself on some of the things that we need to do because we just faced a tornado a few weeks ago where we did have power outage, and we're looking for generators, and generators were 5 times probably more expensive during that time because everybody needed one, and they ran out quickly. So preparing before the storm is the absolute. I'll open up the floor for any questions. Please feel free to raise your hand. I see Sister Gina. Please go ahead.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. I appreciate this topic because I think this was a very important topic. I think what the brother discussed was very, very valuable, and I do want to thank him for that and taking the time that you all had this session. What I wanted to say was that a couple of years ago, I was assigned to a conference of a grant that I was responsible for on my job, which was when it happened in New Orleans, when the levee broke. And I was down there for a period of time, and I was just listening to all the things that people went through. And I'm thankful that this brother wasn't faced with a lot of crime, because in a serious situation, then it begins to turn into crime where people want to take your resources.
Right.
And I was learning all about that. And after that, I got me a generator, and I got the can that is attached to my home that in 15 seconds, when power goes out, it kicks in. And I did it because over here on this side of town where I live, they have something called rolling blackouts often. If everybody's pulling from the heat, or we're in a winter storm, or if everybody's pulling from the air conditioner, it goes down. And I think we went down for like 3 days, and I was the only person on the block with my full house fully generated. So I do understand the seriousness of that. After I went to conferences and saw, I was part of victim witness grants, and I started hearing these people's stories. So what you all discussed today is very, very important, and prepare early. Thank you.
And it was a lot of crime going on, especially the further you go into Houston. I think during that period, seems like they 5 or 6 people above the normal amount of homicides. I think 5 or 6 people were killed for one reason or another during this outage. So, and there was crime and arguing and fighting at the service station. I had somebody arguing and barking at me, and I'm like, please don't come up over here trying to start nothing, because I don't want to do nothing to you, and you don't want to be dead. So just keep moving. And I just kind of ignored that. So yeah, there is a lot of crime and violence out there in the streets, which is why we should get energy source that minimizes the need for us to go out in the streets in the middle of one of these outages in the first place.
And I end up sharing with my neighbors, because one of them next door said, you must have knew, he had just recently moved in, and he said, you must have knew something we didn't know. I said, yeah, my husband and I at the time, the power did go out, and it messed up our sump pump, and that cost money and cost basement. So I kind of knew, but I was like, you want to pull a cord through here? Anybody need me to throw a chicken in the oven for you? I mean, I did what I could to help them, but yeah, it's important.
And one of the other things that I did when I saw the storm approaching is that I quickly paid my mortgage before the power started going out. And those bills that I wanted to make sure that there was no funnies going on, that I paid those before the storm hit. And because you couldn't get an internet connection or anything after the storm hit.
Wow, such valuable information. We do not want to end up in a storm and have bad credit afterwards, right? So get those bills paid. Alhamdulillah, I want to thank Dr. Ramadan and you, Brother Ron, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with the community. It is of huge benefit, and inshallah, we will be prepared as these things will come. We don't know when they'll come, but they will come. And so inshallah, we will be more prepared because of the wisdom that you shared today. So I love the believers to unmute themselves and give the greetings, and inshallah, that will conclude our Talim for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Assalamu alaikum.
I'll go ahead and change my filter on my generator now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.